Well, hey, welcome back, gardening friends. It's about 8:30 Friday night, and at home sipping on some green tea. We're making a late dinner. I guess family's been spending the day kind of getting ready for the graduation drive-by for my oldest daughter. So exciting times. I wanted to get out to the garden tonight, but we haven't had dinner yet, so we're in the process of making dinner and getting things in order. So probably be eating here in the next half hour or so. But anyway, yeah, as you know, I enjoy gardening. I enjoy growing vegetables, and so I spend time, kind of studying things and looking at different things. And I came across this guy. His name is John Kemp, and he runs a. There's a website, advancingecoag.com. But basically, he's into regenerative agriculture, which I don't know how many of you have heard that term, but the idea is he goes a step beyond like organic agriculture or organic gardening or anything like that. Mainly, it's the idea is restoring the fertility of like farmland. And I guess this guy, he runs kind of a consulting business where he goes into big operations, does some analysis, kind of, he's a consultant basically, and helps these, big ag farmers switch over to like organic practices or practices that are going to be regenerative and that will ultimately heal their soils and result in um, better production, better crops. To the point where you're not as reliant on um, fertilizers and things of that nature, and you don't have to use pesticides. At least that's the goal. So I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can go about doing stuff. There's a lot of different things I've tried in gardening and growing veggies and stuff. You can either give the plants the nutrients and not worry about the soil, or you can try to, grow the soil or build the soil, through different things. So I was kind of reading up on things that he's doing, and he came up with this. I thought it was a neat little infographic, but it's the plant health pyramid. I thought it was kind of neat. And the idea is like level one is you get your plants to the point where they're doing kind of a complete um, photosynthesis, where the amount of photosynthesis they're doing increases by 150 to 600%. In the studies that um, he's done, and the idea is that the plant's able to make more complex carbohydrates, and as a result becomes resistant against like soil-borne fungal pathogens and stuff like that, which could kill the plant or um, affect production. There's some nutrients you need for that. It's like manganese, iron, magnesium, nitrogen, and phosphorus. So it's not too difficult to get to that point, but then you get to level two, which is a complete protein synthesis. And the idea here is that the plant is a lot more efficient and is converting all the soluble like nitrogen compounds and nitrates in a 24-hour like photosynthesis cycle. And as a result, again, the carbohydrates, the sugars are more complex in the plant, and so they become more resistant to insects with like simple digestive systems, hornworms, uh, cabbage loopers, corn earworms, aphids, leafhoppers, whiteflies, thrips. There's a variety that are listed here. Some of the same nutrients needed: magnesium, sulfur, molybdenum, and boron. So that's kind of level 2, and those first 2 levels where they kind of have like a more balanced chemistry and the plants going on, and there's a kind of a passive immunity that's going on by virtue of the fact that the carbohydrates in the plant are more complex. Like that's not simple sugars, so again, they're not as susceptible to the fungal diseases and not as susceptible to the larvae of these pests that can, usually do a fair amount of damage to your plants and stuff. So I thought that was kind of neat. Then level 3, that's where, at that point where the soil is regenerated, so to speak. Like the soil food web is intact. It's um, getting more and more complex. And basically, says here plants require a very aggressive plant microbiome in the rhizosphere. And the idea is that the plant, instead of just absorbing simple nitrates and ammonium, um, it's starting to get the majority of their nutrition through microbial um, metabolites. And these come primarily from the microorganisms in the soil. That as the soil is structure improves due to inputs and stuff, and the plant controls the whole relationship. They're releasing sugars in the soil. Simple stuff. I guess exudates, not sugars per se, but exudates into the soil that attract the microorganisms, and then the microorganisms start building this network. And the mycorrhizal fungi is a big one. Will actually infect the root plants, or yeah, infect the roots of the plant, or kind of latch on. And then there's this kind of nutrient exchange that happens where, in exchange for the exudates that they're getting from the plant, they give the plant nutrients in the form of these, metabolites, or some microbial exchange that's happening. Once you get to that stage of where your soil is healthy and you've got the right microbiology in the soil, and things are really rocking, and the plants are absorbing most of their nutrients that way, not only are their sugars more complex, but they're increasing, I guess, what they call their lipid synthesis. And what happens then is that they develop even more kind of an active immunity against like airborne fungal bacterial pathogens and I guess they list them like blight, the various blights, powdery mildew, um, different kind of bacterial diseases, because when those land on the surface of the plants actually have a waxy surface. Like the lipid production has created this kind of waxy shield on the plant leaves to where when that stuff hits it, it washes off, or it doesn't stick and infect the leaves. And not only that, but they start to develop increased resistance against the entire beetle family as this process increases. Um, the fourth level, which is the highest level on the pyramid, is this increased PSM synthesis. And what this is that the microbes are actually triggering the plant's um, immune pathways in both in the plant's microbiome, both in the rhizosphere and the phyllosphere, which are those um, different levels in the soil. And as a result, there's more increased immune compounds, and they call them plant secondary metabolites. Uh, Thicker cell walls, um, more complex sugars. Just the plant is healthier in general. It's reaching its full genetic potential. And so you don't have the pest pressure, because a lot of the plants then, the plants at that point are not edible to a lot of these pests. So interesting stuff. That's the plant health pyramid, and again, it's John Kemp is the name of the guy who's running this organization, this kind of consulting firm. He's working with big ag, and people that run orchards. I mean, he's all over the place. But some neat stuff. There's other people too that are doing similar stuff. Elaine Ingram is another kind of big name in the regenerative agriculture, soil health movement type deal. I guess where all this is going is like, does that really matter? Like, do you really need, other than the plants being healthier, does that matter for you? Like, I mean, what's the difference between me using fertilizers and things like that, and tilling a whole bunch, and growing plants that way, as opposed to building the soil, right? It does matter, because the food that, the vegetables, the produce that you're eating it's healthier, it's more nutrient dense. It's just got a lot of things that the majority of the food we get at the supermarket does not have. I mean, even stuff that's kind of organically grown and that you pick up at the store and whatnot. I mean, nothing beats stuff that you can get fresh out of your own garden. Not only if you're following these practices and whatnot, not only is it going to be nutrient dense, but it's also going to have that soil food web is not just there in the root zone, where the plants are planted, but those microorganisms will actually cover the whole plant and shield the plant that way as well. And so when you're eating stuff fresh, you're also getting that into your digestive system as well. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have come across stuff that talk about how important, like our, what they're finding is how important our digestive system, the microbiome in our gut is for immunity. I mean, that's where our immune system is housed. And so by, eating these foods that have, um, nutrient dense, complex, but also have that microbiology on them, we're ingesting that, and it actually trains the immune system, gives us a more robust immune system to where we're not getting sick as much. We're not as susceptible to infections and disease and stuff like that because we've got a healthy immune system, that's being bolstered by the things that we eat, I know there's a study and I came across is talking about military injury rates or whatever, and like how today's troops, there's a higher incidence, like they're finding that the people that are going into the different branches of the military aren't as healthy as previous generations, like more susceptible to broken bones and injuries that um, recruits in the past weren't as susceptible to because their bone density um, isn't as thick. They're just not as healthy. So anyway, it's all just it's interesting to me. We're straddling the fence on all that stuff. We kind of this year, using the earth auger really has helped cut down on the weeds, but it also cut down on minimizing the soil outside. Just drilling a little hole where we were actually going to plant the plant. We didn't tear everything up real bad. When we ran the tiller initially to clear off the leaf mulch and kind of break up the top inch or two of soil, but then use the auger to go down deeper for to get the plants established in. But then as they're growing, they're sending roots out into the soil, which a good chunk of it's not disturbed this year like in previous years. So again, all very interesting. Ultimately, I want to have more and more in that direction. It's just going to make vegetable gardening so much easier. Over time, we're going to have less weed pressure. We're not going to be churning up those seeds. We're going to have less pest pressure. Ultimately the food's going to be healthier, more complex and stuff. So anyway, I thought it was worth sharing. So we'll see how things go. Looks like we got going to be eating dinner here, so guess I'll see you guys when I see you guys. Happy gardening. Bye.